At this point in my career, Mike, I'm almost appreciative of the fact that I don't have any hair.
That was Dave Shondell, and this is On the Bench with Mike Hall. That's me. Dave Shondell is the long-tenured head coach of Purdue women's volleyball. He took the job back in February of 2003. He's guided the program to 15 NCAA tournament appearances, including last year's run to the Elite Eight. In fact, last season, the Boilers ended with their highest ranking in school history at number 7. They were preseason top 10 again this year. But besides having a very good team in a sport on the rise in a league that dominates, Dave Shondell is a personality, active on social media, quick with a joke. His humor is as good as his team's record. He also has a rarity in high-level sports. He coaches with his brother, John. So I started by asking the roughly 20 years coaching with his brother on his staff. Let's be honest. Was that a mistake?
No. John's one of the best coaches in the entire country. And so to have him here has taken a lot of the stress off of me having to be kind of responsible for a lot of the training. He's a really good trainer of the game. And, my brother's 12 years younger than I am. I don't know if you know that or not. And so I did not get a chance to spend a great amount of time with him when we were younger. I went to college when I was 18, like a lot of people do. And he was only 6 years old. So it wasn't like we were hanging around together a whole lot after hours. And then when we got the opportunity to come here, it was an easy decision to make to bring John along. And it's been one of the very best parts about the job is that I've made up for some lost time with my brother, and we've been able to spend 19 plus years together.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If there's a 12-year gap, it's different. If there's like a 2-year gap, you'd be like, every year, bro, you might get fired. So watch yourself.
Well, there's still some of that discussion anyway, but not very much. We're getting along pretty well here, and it's a great job. Coaching at Purdue has been terrific, and being in the Big Ten, competing against the best, coaches and best players in America is a real challenge.
Well, plus, if there's ever a disagreement, he can always end it with, I'm the younger one. Mom and dad like me better.
Well, that's probably true. When you're 12 years younger, nobody really cares what you do. They've gone through it with, older brothers and siblings, and you can kind of just have your way. And that's kind of how he operated back in the day.
How animated would you say you get during matches?
Well, I told my wife the other day, the great thing about these masks is that nobody can really tell how animated you really are. And you can say things that normally you wouldn't say walking up and down along the bench. So that's the beautiful thing about the mask. Some point in time, we'll probably lose those and get back to having to behave a little bit better on the sidelines, but not nearly as animated as I used to be. I'm trying to stay calm, and you don't want your players to feel like, you're losing your mind on the sidelines. So they respond better, I think, if you're positive and calm. So that's what I try to be that way. But inside, there's a little bit more churning than there is on the outside.
And that's the thing. You've got such a great personality. There has to have been some point in your career where you were like, hey, I need to talk to you seriously. And your kids are kind of looking at each other and laughing like, well, he's blowing up. Isn't this funny?
Well, yeah, they kind of know, though, on match night, things get a little more serious. In the gym during practice, it's good. We've got a really good culture here at Purdue, and we're thankful for the players that have helped create that. But on match night, it gets real. You've got to beat people. There's this thing called the RPI that in our sport dictates life. And so you have to beat people. And so, you take it pretty serious on match night, and so do they. And I think they feed off of that intensity, which is what you have to have in this league.
Right. Well, describe for me your relationship with the officials.
Volleyball is kind of funny because you have two officials primarily. You got two main officials, the up official who's on the stand, and they're 40 feet away from you. And then, unfortunately, there's an official that's really close to you that is in charge of the scores table and has to do the buffering between the coaches and the up official. The up official makes most of the calls, and they're the main official for that night. Unfortunately, the down official is the one that hears from the coaches all the time.
Right.
And so you're better off having a good relationship with them. And I'd say with 90% of the officials in the Big Ten, I have a really favorable relationship. It's the other 10 that I worry about when they walk in the door. And I never know who the officials are going to be. I'm sure in other sports, Matt Painter, he may know who the officials are going to be before the match starts. I prefer not to know, and just wait till they get there and find out. But I think overall relationships are good. When your team is doing well, it's easier to have positive relationships with officials. When your team isn't as good, when we first came to Purdue, we had to fight for every point. I mean, we were not very good early. And so you've got to milk the officials. You got to, do whatever you can to try to get calls to go your way. And then things change a little bit and you get better and you realize that it is what it is. Officials aren't going to do you any favors just because you're riding them. Matter of fact, that normally works in the opposite direction. So, I think most of them realize I'm a pretty nice guy off the floor. They just got to deal with me for about 2.5 hours every night. And I'm trying my best to stay relaxed and stay calm.
Right. Well, tell me more about that 10%. So I'm not asking for names, but like when you see someone and you're like, oh, it's so-and-so, are you like, all right, I got to put on a face, do a cordial hello, let's have a good game? Or are you like, I'm just not going to worry about them. I'm going to focus on my team and we're just going to get out of here in 2.5 hours?
No, I think that you're always trying to better that relationship. So maybe you've had an interaction with an official at one point in time where either you felt like they didn't give you the right call and you got upset with them and that made it worse. And so when they show up and you meet with the two officials before the match and you shake hands and, you're trying to be Mr. Positive and be funny and everything as you can and hope that might lead to everybody forgetting about the past some. But yeah. there are some when they walk in, I get a little concerned because the past relationship hasn't been as good as you'd like it to be. But I don't think any official in our league, we're getting the best volleyball officials in the country in the Big Ten. So, they're doing their very best and that's all they want from coaches as well.
I mean, I think we gotta bring down the up refs. I mean, they got their own fancy ladder. They've got this status from being up high. I mean, they need to be brought down a peg.
I think they should at least come over in between sets and have conversations with the coaches just so they can hear some of the feedback the down official is getting, because that would.
Or let you get
walk over.
You would get one set with the ladder. I just worry about the ladder.
You're really kind of refined in where you can be. You can't, there's a 10-foot line. You can't really you can't go over this line to get near the down official. You can go away from the official about as far as you want to go, but there's a line you can't cross and you can't get on the floor. You can't step onto the playing floor. Jeff Brom has that.
But only once.
Yeah, Jeff Brom has that problem from time to time on the football field. You may have noticed, but you're kind of limited to where you can go, and you can be loud. They can hear you sometimes in a gym when things get quiet. But yeah, I think you're right. I think they should be brought down to talk to the coaches from time to time.
I'm just saying. Let's all be on a level playing field. You're a fun follow on Twitter, Dave. You changed your profile to Annie Drews for the Olympics. What do I have to
profile
do?
Picture? Yeah.
Yeah. What do I have to do to become your profile for a day or two?
I think you move in the right direction because you've gone to volleyball. I mean, I think for a long time, the big shots at the Big Ten Network were all football and basketball. That was kind of, that's just kind of the way it is historically with the media type. But you, have certainly, I think, opened up a little bit, to what is becoming the most popular sport. It is the most popular sport in the world for women. Right. And actually for men, it's the fastest growing sport in the world. So I think you getting ahead of the curve a little bit can help you. And just keep your eyes open. That you never know when a new face might appear on that profile.
Okay, that sounds like a guarantee, and now it's on the record. So
yeah, I mean, you're not a bad-looking guy. You're not Annie Drews by any stretch of the imagination, but you're not a bad-looking guy.
That's fair. Speaking of not bad-looking guys, I'm going to do a cardinal sin thing for a podcast, which is reference a visual thing. But I want to show you this picture. And you tell me what the deal is with this fantastic fella and his pose right here. That is you on a private jet?
Well, that's a Purdue jet. Yeah. And our marketing and communications people did a great job this year of coming up with this idea of putting our team. I mean, Purdue does have a aeronautical history. You know, we have our own airport. A lot of people don't realize that we have an airport on our campus. How many Big Ten schools are supporting that? Not very many. And so we've got our airport on campus, and we kind of wanted people to know that that's a part of our operation. We charter fly. A lot of our trips are in charter fly. We go across campus, get on a jet, and we take off. That's a nice deal. And so our staff came up with this great idea. I didn't know I was going to be involved in it until a couple of days ahead of time. And I went over there. We got a great photographer, Charles Jischke is his name. He's the son of a former president here at Purdue University, Martin Jischke. And that's not how he got the job, but he's really, really good at what he does. And he had all these great ideas, and I just do what people tell me. That's kind of how I keep my job. People tell me to do certain things, and I try to conform to that. So I did bring out the shades. They didn't tell me to bring out the shades, but I thought if I'm gonna get a photo taken at my age, let's cover up as much as we can and stay in the dark. And they did a really good job of keeping me in the dark. So most of the photos the players had were outside in the daylight. For me, they put me up in this plane and turned the lights off and just had some glare coming in from the outside. So it was a good deal.
Well, I've read, a lot of articles on you, and I think it's fair to bring up, you're so tired of people coming up to you asking that for you to be their spokesman for their hair product. It's like you are a person, you're not a piece of meat, like you for your soul and your brain, not just your hair, right?
At this point in my career, Mike, I'm almost appreciative of the fact that I don't have any hair. It's just guys like you have to worry about it all the time. And it goes, you have this image that, you're a pretty boy. And guys like me, it's the Jerry Tarkanian look, Tark the Shark, and there's times I'll get pictures taken of me and I think it is Jerry Tarkanian. And that's not really a good thing. God rest his soul. But no, I don't mind my situation right now. And there's a lot of bald coaches in volleyball, and in the Big Ten, we have quite a crew. So it's kind of a look at what my volunteer coach, who's a really handsome young man, said he feels pressure to shave his head because a lot of the coaches in the sport of volleyball are bald. He wants to be a head coach someday. But I said, I'd hang on to that hair as long as you can.
But isn't it wild? I feel like in the last 15, 20 years or so, like it's genuinely not a thing that's a negative anymore. I mean, I'm being a smartass about it, but like the truth is, like people voluntarily choose to be like, no, I genuinely like this look. It's a better look for me.
Yeah. And I don't understand why people do that before they have to. I mean, you get to be my point in my career. I have no choice. I mean, I had a friend that I played volleyball with. I played at Ball State University, and I had been here about 3 or 4 years, and I was losing my hair, but I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with it. And he sent me an email. This was back before text. He sends me an email. He says, Shawnee, do something with your hair. He said, you cannot keep going with that look. And so I said, okay. And that was kind of the beginning of it. And I don't shave it. I just get the clippers out without any safety valve on there and just buzz it right off about 3 times a week, and saves me a lot of money.
Yeah, you're a risk taker. You don't need a safety valve.
No, just go right over it.
You said something interesting there, Shawnee. So do we have any other nicknames, or is that the only one that people use on you?
I think that I have assistant coaches and players that call me things from time to time, but probably they're not the kind of nicknames you'd be proud of. But I know that I am called a few things. But no, I think for this show, and I know this is a loose show, but I think we'll just stick with Shawnee for right now.
Just to be safe.
Yeah.
You brought this up a little while ago. Matt Painter, what's your relationship like with him?
It's really, really good. Matt and I are both from Muncie. We call it Funcy. Okay, Funcy, Indiana. Matt was a really good basketball player at Delta High School at a time that I was the assistant coach at another county school called Daleville. That was my first teaching stop, was at Daleville. And I was coaching the JV team when Matt was a freshman, and their team was undefeated and 18-0, last game of the season. And this was no shot clock in high school basketball. And we decided we were at Daleville. We had a good little team, but we couldn't match up with that undefeated Matt Painter bunch. And so we decided we'd hold the ball. And back when you saw people, stall, we ended up getting beat 7-5. Matt Painter had 4 points, the lowest score in outburst of his career. So we feel good about that. But Matt and his wife, Sherry, have a lake cottage over on Lake Freeman, as do we. And that Lake Freeman is only about 25 minutes away from where we live. So for coaches to have a little bit of a getaway over there is really nice. And so we spend some time together at the lake. We spend a little bit of time at each other's houses, but it's hard to spend a lot of time because everybody's so busy. And now that we're back recruiting, now that our 17-month ban, which may have been the best 17 months in the history of coaching, is over, we don't see nearly as much time. But I'm a huge basketball fan. I love college basketball. Maybe my favorite pastime is just to watch college basketball. And I've got really good seats here in Mackey Arena. And so I enjoy watching the Boilermakers.
Let me go back to the lake houses. When you guys hang out there, are we playing sequence? Are we doing Cards Against Humanity? What kind of activities are we doing?
There you go again, a loose show. But actually, it's Matt has a lot more money than I do. And he's got a much nicer house too over there. And so we spend most of the time now at his place, and his wife is the party. I mean, his wife, Sherry, wherever she is, a party will follow. And so she'll get live music. She's got a guy that comes out or other people. And when you go there, you're going to get live music if it's in the evening time. So my wife and I enjoy being good friends with Matt and Sherry because they make good things happen. And we do spend a lot of time over there. He has become what's the word I'm looking for? But he barbecues a lot.
Oh yeah.
He has a commercial size, not a grill. I mean, I got the Traeger grill, the new Traeger.
Okay.
And I'm trying to learn, but money, you can see the size of the salaries by the size of the grills that we have at our respective homes. But he does a lot of grilling, and sometimes he does it by himself. Sometimes he brings in his guy named Shorty, and Shorty takes care of all that because he's a pro. But he has lots of gatherings, and his wife's a big social butterfly, and she likes to have a lot of people over there. So we basically listen to music. We talk about basketball. We talk about Muncie. We talk about whatever. We actually get out in the water and wade around, usually with a soda pop in our hand, and it's a good time.
Or a water bottle.
Or a water bottle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Something in a koozie.
I picture when you say like live music, I picture like Painter with a ukulele and his wife singing. That's not what you mean, though.
No. It's usually a guy that's got some country music background, and really, I mean, you can't play too loud of music over there. The neighbors might get a little bit irritated, but they know it's Painter's place, and nobody is. As long as Painter's winning basketball games, he can play the music as loud as he wants to over on Lake Freeman.
Which means he plays music loud all the time, basically.
Yeah.
Does it ever bother you how he's so mean and rude and disrespectful and unenjoyable? And I mean, he's just like, he's so awful to be around, isn't he? I mean, let's get to the bottom of that.
He's the most real head coach I've ever known.
Yeah.
Of course, he's from Muncie. That's real city.
Real people. Yeah.
Yeah. Real people there. And, but he's one of the funniest guys ever. Yeah. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that he's kind, he's considerate. Now, if you go watch him coach his basketball team, you might not think that. Right. He's kind of got some Gene Katie in him, which he gets honestly. And if you didn't know Gene very well, you would think he was a mean, nasty guy until when I got here back in 2003 and was lucky enough to be around Gene for 3 or 4 years, and you find out, and he's the nicest guy ever.
He's a teddy bear.
If you'd watch him coach for many years, you wouldn't think that. And Matt's got a little bit of that, but Matt is a little more calm than Gene was, and cares about people, fights for a lot of good causes, and just a good friend to have. And we're so lucky at Purdue to have him.
Have you ever seen him and Katie together? because it's the
Oh, yeah.
coolest thing. Because Gene worked with us for a few years, so we got to have
Yeah.
a relationship with him. And
Yeah.
like Matt is this wildly successful, still fairly young coach. But when Gene is on the court, you see Matt's eyes light up. Like he still respects and adores his former mentor so much. It's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. No, and Gene's here a lot, as you know. And one of the neatest things was back in the Carson Edwards season, when we did everything but go to the Final Four. Matt made it real obvious how important Gene Katie was to him. And Gene was by his side all the time. And you even saw Gene throwing out some obscenities in the stands from time to time when Carson might take a bad shot. But he didn't take many bad shots during that tournament run. He hit about all of them.
Last one on Painter. You two have to switch jobs for a day. What happens?
I wouldn't mind switching jobs with him right now with the talent that he has. We both have pretty good talent right now. We're both in a pretty good place, which is good. Matt would tell you he doesn't know anything about volleyball, but he comes from Muncie, which is a volleyball hotbed.
Yeah.
His sister played volleyball for my brother at Burris High School. So my guess is that knowing Matt's ability to motivate and encourage and those kind of things, he would be fine. And I'm cut from a similar cloth, but I've got a little bit of basketball coaching experience, a little bit more than he has volleyball coaching experience. But we both find some ways to lose, probably. But, on the other hand, I think that we got enough talent if we just we're smart enough to let the players play.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Give me the loudest place to play volleyball in the Big Ten.
Yeah, good question. Illinois has got a great fan base. You know, Huff Hall is a smaller venue, historic venue. Used to play the state basketball championship in basketball at Huff Hall way back when. It's a nice place. I think our place is probably the loudest.
Yeah.
Wisconsin can get loud. You know, Madison Fieldhouse can get loud. Their crowds have been growing and growing under Kelly Sheffield, another Muncie product, by the way. Nebraska's crowd is really big, and they're the greatest people in the world. And your Big Ten network does a great job of showing the limited number of students that get in there. So I give them credit for that, but it's mostly an adult crowd there,
yeah. Where
other places like Illinois and Wisconsin and Purdue, the students are the real dominant factor. And we have a great crowd here that makes a ton of noise. So Penn State has a good crowd. They got a rowdy crowd. The Penn State fans will get on you a little bit when you're there. Michigan's got a little cracker box gym. It's the old swimming pool up there where they wrestle and have gymnastics, but it still has a swimming pool feel to it. But when the guys come out and sit behind your bench, they like to, you talked about my hairstyle. We get that a little bit sometimes from the fans as well.
How different is Big Ten volleyball now versus 2003 when you came over?
Well, we thought it was pretty good then. As you know, we came in from high school environments. I was at Muncie Central High School the year before. My brother John was at Newcastle High School, the home of Steve Alford. And but the growth in volleyball in this league has been ridiculous. And the Big Ten Network has a lot to do with that, because every high school kid across the country is watching the Big Ten Network. And that's been a great draw for our coaches as we recruit. Is the Big Ten Network has been a real positive thing for us. The biggest difference, I think, in the sport would be if you would take a look at Sheffield's roster at Wisconsin, the size that his team has. And I know that you've seen that. You know, everybody felt really bad for Sheff. Not really, not the coaches, but I'm sure the Badger fans felt bad when a really good player of his got hurt this past week. And we do feel bad for that. You never want to see a player get hurt. So he loses a 6'4" middle, and he's got a 6'9" middle ready to come in and play. And that it's just remarkable the type of athletes that the Big Ten has. And we talked, I think, on the show one time about the Olympic team. Yep. And how many of those players are from the Big Ten. And I think of the 12 players on the roster that won the gold medal, the very first gold medal won by the USA, 8 of the 12, 6 of the 7 starters, Big Ten.
Incredible.
Pretty good.
Really,
Gold
really
medal Big
incredible.
Ten. Yeah.
If you had to pick one player that you played against in your time in the Big Ten that gave you nightmares the most, who would it be?
Oh, Penn State had plenty of them, you know, back in their run when Russ was just beating everybody. Nicole Fawcett was a great player that caused us trouble. There was a gal, and I'm forgetting her name, a great player early on from Ohio State. She was from Canada, Stacey Gordon. Stacey Gordon was only about 5'11", but she just jumped out of the gym. And one time we had kind of researched her. That was back when you always played Friday and Saturday. Okay. And because they set her about every ball, she was really good on Friday, but then the next night she wouldn't be as good because she would just wear down a little bit. She was jumping and swinging about 75 times a night. And they had played Indiana on Friday, and she had about 35 kills. And they're practicing in our gym, and Jim Stone was the coach at that point in time, a good friend of mine, a Ball State grad. And so I got in to say hi to Jim Stone. I was walking out. Gordon was coming in, and I mentioned something to her about how many swings she had the night before, thinking she might put that into her head that might, you know, make her emotionally tired. Well, she set a school record that night for kills in a match against Purdue. And probably should have just kept my mouth shut. Some things, you know, you have to learn in this business. And that was one thing I learned. Don't say anything to the athletes that you're getting ready to play. Just keep your mouth shut. But she was exceptional. Recky's been ridiculous. Samity had 2 matches last year in our gym that I'll never forget. You know, Samity has the ability to rise to the occasion. She'll just kind of be at a certain level. And then all of a sudden when they need her, she just elevates to the next level. So there have been some tremendous players. I'm forgetting a lot of them, but those have been a few.
All right. I know your time is precious. So before we go, we're going to do before you go. 4 questions unrelated to anything.
Okay.
Number 1, you're a fun follow on Twitter. Who do you love? Give me your favorite account to follow on Twitter.
Purdue Volleyball. That's a bad answer, but that's probably the one that I go to the most, but it's a bad answer.
Okay.
Sorry about that one.
It's a company man answer, but yeah, I get it.
How about John Gordon?
Yeah? Why?
John Gordon, great author, positive guy. I started reading all his books about 6 or 7 years ago, and I've read every one of his books, and he continues to pump positivity into the universe.
Number 2, best concert you ever attended?
I don't go to concerts.
Ever?
I went to one when I was in high school. I went to one at Ball State. That's the only concert I've ever gone to. I like music. I like country music, but Styx was the band.
So you saw Styx and you weren't impressed?
Well, I was impressed. They were late showing up. I had to keep getting on had to keep going to the payphone. This was before, of course, you had cell phones. So I had to go to the payphone and keep calling my dad and let him know, well, I'll be back. I'll be home in about a half hour. I'll be home in a half hour. It's about 1 o'clock at night. And I was an 18-year-old high school student. So I had to keep checking in with my pop.
So, but why, what, is it too many people you don't like being around for concerts?
Just to me, it's just a hassle of going places. I'm just a guy that just likes everything simple.
Yeah. I can tell you a great concert venue, Matt Painter's backyard.
Yeah, that's the place to go right there. You got it.
Easy access to the bathroom.
That's my kind of concert. And beverages are cheap.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Number 3, favorite comedian all time.
Oh gosh, you're killing me. Favorite comedian. Of course, I like Dave Letterman. He's not really a comedian, but I like Dave Letterman. He's a
Indiana guy.
Ball State University. Ball State University was a Sigma Chi. I'll just stay with David Letterman.
It's a good one. And his beard is worth being a fan right now.
And, you know, I have a picture of him wearing a Ball State volleyball t-shirt. You know, my dad was the men's coach for Ball State for like 45 years. and he's got that Ball State men's volleyball t-shirt he wears when he runs sometimes.
All right. 4th and final one.
Make it easier.
This will be a hard one. This is a deep one. All right.
Okay. All right.
You've lived on Earth for a while now. What do you know to be true? I
have the best wife in the world. I have the best wife in the world.
Yeah?
That's what I know. I got great kids, great family, and life's all about family. People often ask me, Mike, how do I continue to do what I'm doing? And it's all because I have a great family. And I don't pour everything. I pour a lot into this job, and I love this job. And unfortunately, when I came to Purdue, my youngest kid was a freshman in high school, and I didn't have, and it hurt that I couldn't watch him play football on Friday nights, but I couldn't. But for the most part, they were all grown. I've got 4 kids, and he was the youngest. So it's helped that I've been able to do this job without having to raise a family. But my family is really important to me, whether it's my dad and my brothers and sisters and my kids. And I've got 9 grandkids with a 10th on the way. So family is really important, but I have the best wife in the world.
Well, let me be clear. In the last 5 minutes, you have not only perfectly sucked up to your wife, but also to your bosses by saying that was the best Twitter account to follow. I mean, yeah. You're next level thinker there, Dave.
Well, you don't get to this spot without knowing a few things. Yeah.
Dave Shondell, thanks for giving me some of your time, man.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
So to recap, if you want to go on a great summer lake adventure, you can go with him and Matt Painter. Don't ask him to go to a concert because he's only seen Styx. And oh, by the way, his wife likes the way he ended this podcast. That'll do it for this episode. Always check out Alex Rue's podcast. We'll see you next week for the Big Ten Network in Chicago. I'm Mike Hall.